You are a sick, twisted woman, Candace Owens. I sincerely hope your husband, George, and his esteemed family see you for what you are and get you the help that you so desperately need. That was literally the final thing he said in that chat. I responded to him and I said, you're welcome. Feel free to reach out over the course of this tour. Always happy to do this again. By the way, where is your first event tomorrow? And he said, Utah Valley U! Exclamation mark. And tragically, that was where an assassin's bullet, not from the Jews, not from Mossad, no, from a radically indoctrinated left-wing, furry, fetishist, transgender adjacent lunatic. That was where Charlie Kirk met that transgender adjacent furry fetishist assassin's bullet and met his maker. Candace Owens, over the course of the days that I was off this week, didn't just take this blowing off steam of Charlie Kirk responding to the $2 million donation poll. No, Candace was not content to merely just take that and just rip it out of context and say, oh my God, Josh Hammer, Pastor Rob McCoy, literally Charlie's spiritual mentor. Candace, I mean, this is how demonic this woman is. It's actually not just the Jews she's coming after. She's coming after an amazing evangelical Christian pastor, Rob McCoy, Charlie's lifelong spiritual mentor. So Candace was saying, oh, Josh Hammer, Pastor Rob McCoy. They're totally misrepresenting Charlie's position on Israel. Which, again, as I've just demonstrated, we're literally not. But Candace Owens was not content to just stop there. She took it even further. On, I believe, the second day of our 2-day holiday, again, I kind of came onto this tsunami of insanity, so it was a little hard for me to sift out what happened when. I believe it was on the second day of our holiday that Candace found a tweet of mine from around the time of Charlie's death and used it as a way of alleging that I had some sort of foreknowledge in it. The tweet in question was of an old post of Donald Trump's from a long time ago talking about public executions. I think it might even go back as far as the Joker Soneyev Boston Marathon bombing in 2013. That tweet, as happens on social media, started making the rounds among conservative influencers in the context of the horrific, brutal murder of Irina Zarutska, the Ukrainian refugee on the light rail in Charlotte, North Carolina, a tragedy that went down, or at least was made public for the first time in the week or two prior to Charlie Kirk's assassination.
So I don't know if you guys noticed that Candace didn't even want to address this issue because she thought she had found a smoking gun. And when people responded to her, she came the following day. She just, oh no, this guy is just plugging in the book. Like, no, you accused him about the assassination. Can you address that? No, she didn't even bother to address that. So this Josh Hammer guy, he's actually a lawyer. So I don't know if he's going to do anything about it. He should know how these issues work, so to speak. But it was quite interesting. So Candace Owens, clearly she doesn't care. You're just going to accuse this guy who happens to be a lawyer, and then he's also a Jew. He's absolutely fair game when it comes to Lady Candace. Okay, let's watch a little bit more.
So a lot of people started quote tweeting this and retweeting this post there. I happen to be an unapologetic longtime proponent of the firing squad method of execution and or potentially, in really extreme circumstances, public executions. I've said this for years for a very simple and defensible reason, which is that if the state is going to take a human life, which is a fraught topic, I'm not going to get into the whole death penalty debate on today's show. Fine, I think reasonable minds can absolutely disagree on that question. Totally. I totally see both sides, especially from a pro-life perspective, and I'm a staunch pro-lifer or nothing else. But the point is that if the state is going to take a life, what is the purpose of doing so behind closed doors with this drug cocktail? Rather, it seems to me that the state is going to take a life. You want it to be clear the state is taking a life. Again, holding aside the morality of that overarching question, when you get there, when you cross that threshold question, it seems to me that public executions are actually not a crazy idea. Certainly Donald Trump thought that. So I was quoting that and said based. And this was in the context, obviously, as was abidingly clear by my tweets throughout that news cycle, throughout that day, was obviously about the murderer of Irina Zarutska, someone who had a 15 arrest long rap sheet who obviously never in a million years should be on the streets. That's what I was talking about. That's what someone like a Charlie Kirk would have been talking about. Charlie was very much a pro-death penalty person. So Candace Owens takes this and starts to imply that I was foreshadowing Charlie Kirk's assassination, because that was a public assassination. So the implication is that I had foreknowledge of, at minimum, and potentially at maximum, was somehow complicit or involved in the murder of my own friend. A murder that I was openly, bitterly weeping over for days. The day after the murder, when I was recording my show, The Josh Hammer Show, I broke down crying during the recording for the very first time in the history of my show. It was an unconscionable act of depravity. I've never had a friend murdered, ever, let alone murdered in such public, high-profile fashion. And because Candace Owens has a big platform, which is disturbing in and of itself, her show is so big, the trolls have just been utterly through the roof. Now, I have thick skin. I don't particularly care. But I think it's worth just talking a little bit more about just how off-the-rails demonic this woman has become. Let's go ahead and watch a clip of Candace Owens talking about me on her show while I was offline celebrating the holiday of Sukkot earlier this week.
You have to be someone that is, or maybe...
Yes, so I'll let you guys watch this. She went too far. But what he said, it's actually very dangerous because somebody else kind of has a huge following. Like somebody said, allegedly, like what you said here, Jennifer, right? Allegedly, somebody did that. What would stop somebody to be like, okay, Josh, you're next for doing this thing to Charlie Kirk? Because just these, that's why you cannot just be slandering people, bringing these accusations. Right now, it's a very tense time. It's very dangerous. And she ended up pronouncing this guy, and this is a terminology that she's using. So I'm getting like, okay, you're using, these are witchcraft terminology, okay? Like, there's so much hatred in her heart. And is this just because of your best friend, Charlie Kirk? Is this just because of someone else's husband? It's not good. Listen to what she says here.
Rather, someone that is possessed by something that is less than human, subhuman, to do that. There's no humanity in you. That is why I named Josh Hammer. I believe he is a deeply disturbed man. Filth. Okay? Absolute filth. I don't understand it. I can't comprehend it. Whatever that is that lives in him does not live in me. There's no truth in him. Obviously, there's no truth in Josh Hammer. I know we won't get answers from you, but let me promise you that if I get a text message to the effect that you were somehow involved in him feeling anxiety the day before, if you did something that gave him anxiety in that way, I will release it instantly. There will be no place that you can hide.
Filth. Subhuman. Again, I want to take us back to the beginning of today's conversation. Because the moral dichotomy, the juxtaposition here is just so stark and so obvious, and simultaneously so revealing. Candace Owens calling me filth and subhuman, that there is no truth within me. Simultaneously, while I am literally offline, because I am doing my best as an observant Jew to quite literally live out the capital T truth, meaning the prescriptions and the mandates of the Hebrew Bible, the Torah, by being offline and spending family time and rejoicing with my wife, our daughter, and our friends. If that is subhuman or filth to you, Candace Owens, then you have so egregiously inverted morality from immorality, good from bad, evil from righteousness, that not only do you not belong in front of a camera, sending your deranged satanic rants to the various far corners of the internet. You have been so far off the rails. She first started going down the rabbit hole about 3 years ago to the day, almost, in October 2022. That was when Kanye West started making his first neo-Nazi, pro-Hitler comments. And Candace Owens, at the time, had a show for the Daily Wire, starts doubling down, defending Kanye West. I was actually one of the very rare people at that time to start calling Candace Owens out immediately and say that she should go, and that the Daily Wire, where I used to work years ago, the Daily Wire ought to fire her. Go back and look at the show archives. Go back and look at the Josh Hammer Show archives from October 2022. I believe it did multiple episodes on it.
So I suspect maybe that has to do Maybe that has got something to do with how Candace Owens came so hard for him, okay? Because he used to work for Daily Wire, didn't like Candace Owens there. And then he's so close to Charlie Kirk at Turning Point USA. He has access to Charlie Kirk more than what Candace Owens has. Could it be because all these other things, and then he happens to be a Jew, is almost, Candace Owens cannot take it. So let me just bring these accusations. Yeah, good terminology. Satanic language that's coming out of Candace Owens. Pronouncing curses, speaking to Charlie Kirk in a dream. By the way, that wasn't Charlie who appeared in a dream, right? That's a demonic entity disguised as Charlie Kirk. Because we do know if you're dead, you cannot be coming out to be communicating with people who are alive, okay? And then she's out here calling someone else subhuman. There's something inside this gentleman. Like, even if you don't like the guy, that's way too strong language to be using. All right, let's finish up.
But whatever she was saying back then just got orders of magnitude worse.
Yes.
As soon as October 7th happened. Literally started liking tweets on Twitter before Elon Musk hid the likes on that website. She was liking tweets promoting the old medieval, the literal OG, actual medieval blood libel. The fanatical notion pushed around the time of the Black Death in medieval Europe that Jews would kill Christian babies and use their blood to bake Passover matzah, one of the most insidious, vile lies that led to the wanton slaughter of thousands and thousands and thousands of innocent Jews. She was liking tweets like that, demeaning all sorts of Jews in the most despicable, debasing, degrading way. And Candace, sadly, even though she's really far out there, there are a lot of people who are her fellow traffickers these days, her fellow travelers. Tucker Carlson says a lot of the same stuff in a slightly more guarded fashion. In fact, Tucker went there very soon after Charlie's death when it came to just asking questions about Israel and Mossad. What did they know? Even Megyn Kelly a couple weeks ago, horrifically referring to Candace Owens as brilliant. Megyn, I've been on your show. Megyn, you had me on your show numerous times after October 7th. We had one heartfelt, hour-plus long conversation about the utter depravity of October 7, 2023, and the war that was soon to commence in Gaza, about Middle East geopolitics, Iran, Qatar. It was a wonderful conversation. Megyn, is Candace Owens brilliant for accusing me of complicity in the assassination of our mutual friend Charlie Kirk? Is Candace Owens brilliant for calling Emmanuel Macron's wife a dude? We live in very difficult times. And amid those difficult times, there is a rush to question everything. It's one of the symptoms of our age, is that the breakdown in trust from authorities and elites there is this overarching need to just sow the seeds of doubt in every bit of information that comes across the transom. Maybe sometimes you should pinch yourself. You should walk outside. You should touch some grass. You should go to church. You should go to synagogue. You should open up some scripture as no less a Christian than Charlie Kirk himself would have urged you in no uncertain terms to do. You should spend time with your family. You should.
Yeah, and the funny thing, interesting part is Megyn Kelly and Candace Owens were polar opposites. Now it's almost like, okay, they have their common enemy. It's the Jews. It's the Jews just asking questions. You know what I mean? An enemy of my enemy is my friend type thing is what's going on. Yes, it's also disguised as asking questions, but there's more to it than just outright asking questions. I've noticed that myself too.
Observe the Sabbath, something else that Charlie Kirk would have urged you to do. In fact, he had a whole book set to be released posthumously this December about that topic. Not everything is an insane, elaborate conspiracy theory. As Andrew Colvett, the executive producer of the Charlie Kirk show and a longtime personal friend of mine, as Andrew himself said on Chris Cuomo's television show earlier this week, Israel obviously had nothing to do with Charlie's assassination. No one other than the person in custody. A radical left-wing indoctrinated ex-Mormon who gets radicalized on campus, is in a romantic relationship with a transgender roommate, decides to equate speech with violence, as many in the academy teach, promulgate, and earnestly believe with every fiber of their being, and then decides to act out against transgender skeptical speech of Charlie Kirk with a horrific, irrevocable act of politically motivated violence. That's all that happened here. It is disgusting beyond measure that I am here doing this video in the first place. It's loathsome, frankly. It is loathsome that Candace Owens and some fellow travelers started saying all sorts of other crazy stuff about this Hamptons retreat I mentioned in early August, where there was an alleged intervention from Bill Ackman, or maybe my friend Seth Dillon, the CEO of the Babylon Bee, when it comes to Charlie Kirk and Israel. Guess what? I was there the whole time. There was no intervention. It is a bold-faced lie. It is loathsome that that lie spread. It is even more loathsome that the lies this week spread. And it is triply loathsome that the lies this week spread while I was offline, rejoicing, as the Bible commands me to do, with my beautiful wife and my beautiful daughter. You are a sick, twisted woman, Candace Owens. I sincerely hope your husband, George, and his esteemed family see you for what you are and get you the help that you so desperately need. I hope that Brigitte Macron bankrupts you with her defamation lawsuit. We are certainly already looking into legal action on our end as well. And you are just the worst of the worst. But in closing, I'm not going to let you ruin my holiday. We're currently in the middle of what are known on the Jewish calendar as Chol HaMoed, as the secular days of the sacred. The middle days before we come back next week for the final 2 days of this extended fall holiday period. This is still a holy time on the calendar. In other words, we are still commanded during these days to rejoice. So I'm still rejoicing. Can you, Candace Owens, honestly look in the mirror? Can you honestly look at your husband? Honestly look at your life's work to date and conclude that you are happy? That you are rejoicing? That you are satisfied? And that you are actually living out the capital T truth in a way that is accountable to your maker, to my maker, to the master of the universe? I feel pretty confident, actually, in my answer. I'm sincerely doubtful that you can do the same.